Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor Nation News. Kind of a busy Saturday, and by busy, I mean I'm avoiding doing other things I should be doing here. We've got Michael A. fighting back after everyone's... I don't know if people are making that mountain out of a molehill, but Michael A. seems to have played a very fair game on Bachelor in Paradise. I'm being accused of being just a Michael A. stan, but did he do something wrong? He, of course, told Sierra he wasn't that into her in more or less words, and then conveniently Danielle shows up, and then he falls with Danielle. Is that some sort of grand conspiracy, or is that just how the chips fell? We're going to get into it. Follow me on Instagram at @DNeals. We have an interesting conspiracy, or theory, I should say, from the She's All Batch podcast. I'll share in a minute, but I'm also going to share what Michael is saying, because Sierra dove into the tweets, and Michael's responding to some fans saying, hey, I had no idea Danielle was coming. Because, of course, you know, in some circumstances, there's this knowledge. Brendan Moraes knew Piper was going to show up, and he strung Natasha along. And so since then, everyone's trying to catch everyone in a lie. Like, you took a photo with so-and-so at a CrossFit event in the Coachella Valley. You know, there's always just these different conspiracies we find. Follow me on Patreon if you want behind-the-scenes content. I posted the full wedding video from this past Saturday and tons of other content on patreon.com/Dave Neal. So The Bachelor posted, suspicious how Michael almost went home, then a perfect match for him walks onto the beach. Michael responds. We'll get to that in a second. We made this video yesterday. Jared says Michael knew. And, of course, now today's video, Michael says, I didn't know. So the question is, did he know or didn't he? Here's just a very quick recap of Jared saying that Michael must have known Danielle was coming.
And Danielle away. We're just going to send all the other girls away.
Yeah. Danielle stays. Well, we knew that Michael was interested in Danielle even before that rose ceremony, because he mentioned when he broke up with Sierra, or they ended things, we were talking to Michael one night, and we said, well, is there anybody else that you'd want to see come down the stairs? And he said Danielle.
Who I think he had an inkling would be coming, because that would have been a random.
You think they must have talked?
All right, so they said he had an inkling. Now, you can have an inkling, but is an inkling, does that hold up in court? Yeah, he had an inkling that they were coming. Here's his response. Someone said in the comment section, it's shitty for doing what they did, and he knew. Just shifty. Michael says, I really didn't. He says, I really didn't know that being that Danielle was going to show up. And of course, it does matter, because if there was some wild evidence that Michael and Danielle had conspired to show up together and, you know, cue the X-Files music and this and that and the other, then that would be like, well, then he was leading Sierra along. Sierra was dispensable and he was just using her. And of course, we don't want that to be the case. When in fact, he says, no, I told Sierra as soon as I didn't think it was, she was the one. So someone said they broke up before split week because of Danielle came with a group of new women. Michael would be seen as a villain, cheating on Sierra, and producers are protecting his image. Let's read that one more time. They broke up before split week because of Danielle. If she came with the new women, Michael would be accused of cheating on Sierra. Michael says, nope. I broke it off the second I felt there wasn't a strong connection. It would have been much more beneficial for me to wait until I received her rose, but that didn't sit right with me. That didn't sit right with me is what he should have said. Sit or set, either way. Look, here's the show. You get a rose and you give it to somebody else. You're in charge. Then they have a rose and they can give it to you when they're in charge. You have to use each other, kind of like how it works in society. We use each other for personal gain. It's everything's self-serving, right? But something has happened in the last couple of years where we are sort of want justice on a show created to lack justice. You know what I mean? Like we want there to be some sort of morality on a show that has no morality. But either way, I think we're putting too much bandwidth into the idea that Michael has all this control. Sure, the producers like him, but he's not like some behind this. He's not like the producer's son. He's not like, he's getting a decently good edit. Absolutely. But Are the producers doing this because of some sinister motivation, or do the producers need a win? Because there aren't many couples on Paradise that are doing well, right? So the producers are like, all right, you know what? And this is just my thought. Michael breaks it off with Sierra. He's just not that into her. Sierra had the rose. That would have been the worst time for Michael to do that. It would have been much more advantageous, like he says, to break up with her when he has the rose. So he breaks up with her, and then producers go, oh, geez, we were going to have Danielle be a part of this Casa Amore thing. But now that Michael broke up with Sierra, let's try to convince Sierra to leave the beach. And that's what She's All Batch thinks happened. We'll get to that in a second. So another response by Michael. He says, I personally felt like taking her rose without being fully confident in our relationship was leading her on, Sierra that is, and wasting her time. So I did it when she still had the power to choose what she wanted to do. Clearly that was lost in the editing, but it was my intent. I wasn't planning on her leaving and honestly felt really bad about that. Yeah, Michael's not in charge if Sierra wants to bounce. All in all, what did they date? 3 or 4 days? Like, how long was this really? He didn't string her on for the whole season. Others said, what would you have preferred that he did in this situation? So many on Bachelor in Paradise past and present have used people for roses. He didn't. Yeah, it's almost like on Survivor, you have different alliances. You know what's interesting with Survivor? You backstab each other on Survivor, but very rarely when the game's over do people get actually upset and hold grudges because they know it's just a game. If you don't backstab someone over, they're going to backstab you over, right? With Bachelor in Paradise, it's a little more interesting because there's still this aura that it's not a game, it's actually love, which can exist, but at the same time, a lot of these blokes just want to stay on the show as long as possible. So it's like, all right, I'll kiss you, or all right, Roddy, yeah, I'll hang in with Lace until something better comes along. And we call that dating in our 20s, hanging with someone until something better comes along. But he's getting criticized more than people who do. I truly don't get it. I think he's getting blamed a little too much for stuff that's production's fault. Danielle swooping in to save him and Sierra falling for him so fast. I think he knew Danielle was going to show up and wanted to wait for her. That's totally fine. But if he had said from the beginning, I want to stay open in the process, I want to go on dates, I want you to go on dates and then see if we come back to each other, I don't think Sierra would have fallen so fast. I do like that he dumped Sierra before she gave him a rose, but I also think that's contributing to the weirdness of the situation. It makes it clear that Danielle is only here for Michael, and Michael had no intention of being with Sierra. If he had stayed and the split happened, we would have been seen him crying and struggling with picking Danielle over Sierra, and we'd probably be rooting for him and Danielle because we would have seen them connect first. That's not his fault. Well, I don't know about that. It's a great comment, but I kind of feel like if they waited till the split, Michael would have stabbed Sierra more. It's like he dumped her before Danielle came along. I thought that was a nice thing. Like I said, I think it's a convenient edit, one that wasn't his intention, but in hindsight, it looks very convenient. He's getting a lot of hate for something majority of contestants do. It's a dating show. People will jump from one to another quickly. It would have been bad if he had used Sierra for a rose. Sierra was already talking stepmom after a few days. If he wasn't feeling her to that extent yet, can't blame him for breaking up with her. Also, of course, producers play a massive part and are intentional. They always ask contestants who they want to see most on Paradise and use that info to set up scenarios. Nothing new here, folks. He obviously had a good feeling Danielle would arrive. So yeah, he might not have known she would arrive, but he might have said, hey, that's who I want. And anyway, here's what She's All Batch has to say. Go ahead and check out their full breakdown of it all. I'm just going to play a couple-minute clip.
So Michael and Danielle then go on a date, which Wells says they're the same person with different genitalia, which is an interesting way to describe people. But Michael and Danielle are on the date, and Sierra is live tweeting while they're on the date saying, this is convenient. She said she feels so disrespected. Like, hearing all the things that Michael is saying rubbed her the wrong way.
I really want to get Sierra on the podcast one day because I really do feel that there's more to this story here. I know I just said, like, the production wasn't expecting Sierra to self-eliminate, but then, like, I also have a theory that they convinced her that she had to be the one to go. Because if you look back to the situation of their breakup, like, Sierra is confessing her feelings for Michael. Michael is the one who's like, I'm not ready for this. So when you look at those two things, Michael should be the one to leave. He's literally saying that he's the one not ready for a long-term commitment because he still has grieving to do. And then,
but here's and that's a great theory that the producers are trying to shoo off Sierra, make some room at the table there. You know, the idea that Michael's saying he's not ready. We have to here. It's interesting, right? Imagine if Michael just told Sierra exactly how he felt. I like you. You're beautiful. I don't see us together in the future. I'm just not that into you, which is probably more the case. But instead, you know, we're nice people, and nice people say, well, you know, you look for reasons to make it about, it's not you, it's me. And it's like, well, it's most likely you. I'm just not that into you. We've all been there. I've had people say, oh, Dave, you know, like, you're a great guy, but, and it's like, all right, what, you don't want to marry a comedian? Haha, sucker, I found someone who did. Should really question my lady's judgment. You couldn't have found a tech guy, you know what I mean? All right, we rent. So anyway, hit the subscribe button, join the Patreon. But either way, I'm digressing here. The idea of what he said and how that's used against him, I don't think that's necessarily like the most obvious truth. It's not what he said, it's what he's feeling, and he's just not that into Sierra.
Somehow Sierra ends up being the one who leaves. I think they like got in her head and told her, no, like you have to go. Like if you guys are gonna break up and he's not gonna get your rose, like you have to be the one to go, because otherwise that makes no sense. But obviously they just wanted to keep Michael on for Danielle.
Another interesting take that I very much support.
Thank you so much.
No, it really is. I mean, it's not, I honestly didn't think into the logistics of Michael and Sierra and like what actually happened, but I think that's a really smart take.
Like, I think she was more or less like bullied by the producers to go. And now all of a sudden, now Michael's turning around and all of a sudden he's ready. Like, yeah.
Bullied. Okay, that's where I'll disagree. First of all, I love Stephanie and Jackie. I love them, but bullied is one of those words we just use. Manipulated, sure. I'm sure if I pushed back, she would totally. Yeah, I wasn't bullying. Like they try to shape shift the experience.
Yeah, if I was Sierra, I'd be feeling disrespected too. I really also want to know too, what is going on in Michael A's head? What does he think is going on? Because it is so clear to everybody watching that it's like, dude, you are getting special treatment. This is not fair. But
yeah, for sure he got special treatment. For sure. Look, I got out of a speeding ticket a couple weeks back. For sure I got special treatment. The person was nice to me. Whichever privilege you want to say I have that was applied, absolutely. You know, sometimes that just happens. Michael for sure had privilege in special treatment that they wanted to see his love story with Danielle played out. It was on their show arc. What people have to, but again, you know, is he going to call that out? Probably not. But what we have to remember is the producers have a gigantic show arc. They need to make this show last 10, 12, 14 episodes. They can't just bring everybody in day one. Day one, if they have 8 couples that all want these perfect matches, it doesn't behoove them to bring them all in day one. You know why? Because then there's no drama. And if you break the show down into 4 acts or 3 acts, you need some dramatic moments. You need those moments where someone new enters the picture. We see this in every rom-com, The Notebook, you know, romantic, you know, Nicholas Sparks movies, right? If you're a bird, I'm a bird. All right, show's over. You know, that's 8 minutes into the movie. No. You guys, he's got to build the house. Ryan Gosling's got to have the beard. The other guy's got to be a fight. You know, you got complicated villains here. So the show waits till episode, I don't know what it is, 7 or 8, to be like, all right, Danielle, come on down. You're the next contestant on Michael's Price is Right. And then she's like, I'm all in. And, you know, she plays Plinko. Next thing you know, they're knocking boots in the old boom room. He's winning a new car. You know what I mean?
But he's just like, la-di-da, I'm here in Mexico.
Remember the
like,
tweet?
That's what I was about to bring up. Arguing with Genevieve, saying that like she didn't have a good experience. He's like, what was so bad about it? We got our meals paid for.
All right, so you can go check out the whole episode from the She's All Bachelor podcast. We love to promote them. They're doing fantastic work. And a lot of times people are like, Dave, what got into you today? It's just a new dark roast, baby. I got a new dark roast with a new cashew non-dairy creamer. And let me tell you something, I'm just flying through the roof. All right, extra content's on Patreon if you want to donate and all that jazz. Patreon.com/Dave Neal. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one, everybody.